All right, teammates, we are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the show. Welcome to the number one show on innovative teamwork. It's what we do. We come at you every single day. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. We don't take days off here. To my regular listeners, you already know how I get down. I bring you some of the greatest, just gems of people that do some of the most incredible things, and they do it in such a small way. So with all that, again, I got to shout out Podmatch for making it so it's so easy to be connected with these great people. And it's brought my show back to having a show with guests and not so many solo episodes. Not that I won't be having solo episodes, but it'll be a lot more guests because of Podmatch. So, with all that, it was somebody that I got connected with on Podmatch. And, he has just an incredible concept, sports background, does a lot of great things in the community. His name is Mr. Jeff Christian. Welcome to the Move Swiftly podcast. How are you?
Oh man, so great. Awesome to spend some time with you and your listeners, and excited to take a deep look into life and sports and pizza and everything else.
Yes, and you brought it up. You kind of already brought it up because this is what I actually wanted to talk about. You have a sports background. I believe it's basketball, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, you played basketball and you coach basketball at the high school level, and you have the kind of the mindset of bringing people together in the community, making it so you're one of the people that young people in the community can look up to. And then you start a company named C4, and now you use pizza to get people in. So I'm saying all that so you can kind of help us fill in the blank a little bit because I talked to a lot of people. There's been a lot of people on this show. I'm pretty sure you're the first one that's been able to go, basketball to, community leader. And then now you're using pizza to bring people in. So, trying to give us a little bit about your background and, how
Yeah.
you came into the concept. By
Yeah.
the way,
So
we
it
don't
it
have time limits
starts.
here. So just do your thing.
Yeah, it started from day one. So I grew up with a big family. I have 8 brothers and sisters, including me, and
Wow.
we grew up in the San Jose area. And the only thing we knew was teamwork. I was blessed to go to private school my whole life, but also blessed to be the janitor of the school, to do the landscaping of the school, to set up and take down bingo of the school. So we always had to hustle to kind of make ends meet with our education. And so teamwork was just built in
Mm.
from day one. It's just what we did, which is also what helped me develop my life philosophy, which is around these 4 C's, which is C4.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know exactly. It's a long story, but all
We're
of our
here for it.
family.
Yeah, we're here for it. And I hate to cut you off there because I just got to make sure I emphasize something to the listeners. And this is something I actually talked about in my latest book named Transferring D1 is that lady who may be working at a university that's cleaning up the bathrooms and sending her kid to school for free. That's why she's doing it. It's just as important as that donor who's given $1 million to the university's athletic fund. All right. Just as you said that when it comes to the landscaping, helping out with bingo night, all the little jobs that you got so many people kind of look over. It's so important that we recognize those people and recognize them because of the work they do and how they're able to build the community. So I had to make sure I don't want that point to just be brushed off, as you start to get in. So, go
For
ahead.
sure. And I totally 100% agree and appreciate you saying that. And so, a little bit about my family. We're all pretty athletic. You can't tell, but I'm 6'8". My oldest brother is 6'2", next one 6'3", next one 6'4", next one 6'5". I mentioned that because they all played college sports, at Humboldt State, Chico State, San Jose State.
Mhm.
I received a full scholarship to University of San Francisco. And then while I was at USF playing, I said, I better take care of my business. With school, I wasn't good enough to play in the NBA. So I became a nurse. And that's actually what I did for 29 years and was my profession. And
Mm.
most of my career was at UC Davis Medical Center, which is up in Sacramento, in a level 1 trauma center.
Mm.
And so I spent a good chunk of my time taking care of people shot, stabbed, really bad car accidents, and been
Oh,
surrounded by death, which kind of leads me into my current nonprofit, which is called C4 Leaders. And we do 3 things, which my background has really helped me. One, we do team building and leadership development. So we work with schools, churches, basically anybody and everybody who's looking to get down and get better at working together and taking a deep look at life. We also have a podcast called Life's Essential Ingredients, which is listened to in 46 countries and like 710 cities. And then I write children's books. And the children's books are written kind of like a Disney movie. So I use them for every last group that I work with, adults and kids.
Right.
And my target audience is actually families of just trying to get us to slow life down and get us back to the table and create space, kind of like what you were talking about, to create space for all people to be seen, heard, and loved. And I think that needs to start at home and then slowly spread out into all the different parts of our community.
Right. So when you and well, first of all, it's great that you're doing that. I didn't even know about that when it comes to you being a nurse for 29 years. As you're talking, I could see where your heart starts to get filled with just a lot of trauma in that position. And the question I have though is, what kind of resistance do you get when you try to do these things in the community? Because I know for a fact that what you're saying sounds great and slowing people down, but we live in a world where people are hustling and bustling and they want their money and they want their bag, and especially with the generation of social media fueled world, we're so addicted to instant gratification. How do you go about dealing with the challenges that are certain to come up when you're trying to serve people?
Yeah, to be honest, there's always challenges, but I think when you mix in, one, the pizza that we make is homemade hand tossed sourdough, and I have a pizza truck, so I had a 3,000-pound pizza oven
Mhm.
welded onto a Chevy 3500 HD truck, and that's what we use to roll around. And then I think when you mix in the fire and food, it just creates a space where it kind of happens naturally. People just slow down. And then that's part of building culture. And, from just coaching, and I've been a high school, college, and professional basketball coach for 25 years. It's about building the culture. And what is that culture that you want to build? And again, for us, it's not easy, but again, our mission, create space for all people to be seen, heard, and loved. Well, in order to do that, you got to slow down. You got to take a step back. You got to say, hey, what's truly essential? And then we mix in those ingredients, allow people to experience them for themselves, which are already just sitting inside them, waiting to come out. And then they get a taste of the pizza and sit back and relax and say, okay, hey, life is good and I can slow things down. And I totally agree. We have huge problems with social media and being addicted and not using our devices as the intent that they were created for, which is a tool. And so, yeah, we do a lot of work in that space as well.
So you got to kind of fill in the blanks here. So you were a nurse, and then you have found time to coach high school basketball and coach college, and then coach professionally. So I'm just trying to figure out, how were you, like, was it 24 hours a day you were working? How were you able to balance that? And then you kind of brought it up already. I was going to bring it up a little later, but you brought up how you were incorporated pizza into the way you serve people. So I'm how were you able to manage it? I mean, were you?
Well, you can see me, right, man? You see all this gray. I'm actually just 16 years old. I'm like Benjamin Button. I'm aging. You see my hair, which I don't have much
Yeah,
up
let me,
here.
because I coached high school for 2 seasons, and that was a lot. But you just said you went all the way from college to pro, so you had to see them, and no, I'm a football guy. Basketball is a different beast. You're more one-on-one with the guys. So
Yeah, yeah. No, it's I've always, I guess, part of, to answer that question, is when you are surrounded by death,
Mhm.
you kind of have two choices. You can say, man, I'm going to get depressed and think, man, when am I going to get shot? When am I going to get stabbed? When am I going to get in a bad car accident? Because you would see that day in and day out.
Right.
Or you can flip it and say, you know what? I got to get busy living, and I'm here for a purpose. And so I decided to do the latter and
Mhm.
said, well, let me, make sure I'm using my time here. Who knows how long I'll be here,
Mhm.
but I want to get my money's worth.
Right.
I want, when my clock is punched, I want to be like, hey, I did your work. I hope I did you proud. And now I'm ready to come home.
Hmm. So what was kind of like a day to day like for you? And then how was that like when did the kind of the pizza breakthrough insight? How did that happen? Was it just going through your day to day and somebody says, all right, look, let's start serving pizza? Walk us through where that concept came in about.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. So we've always, just from growing up, we've always just been servants. And
Hmm.
so we've hosted through Rotary Youth Exchange, and Rotary's an international kind of entity, and they do so much great work. But one of the programs that they have that a lot of people aren't aware of is they have a youth exchange program. And so they take in students from other countries, and then we ship students from the US to other countries. And so we've hosted kind of 3.5 students from Colombia, Switzerland, France, and Italy. And then
Right.
my youngest daughter got to go to Mexico. But to answer your question,
Mhm.
so we went to visit the students in France, Switzerland, and Italy.
Right.
And I grew up having family meals, trying to slow things down. With my family, I have 2 daughters,
Hmm.
had family meals. But when I went to Europe and visited our friends and our family now, the students that were part of our family while they were here,
Right.
I was so taken back of
Hmm.
how they use the mealtime, specifically dinner, to not do anything. Their meals are 4 or 5 hours. I mean, they are sitting there chilling, interacting, loving on each other, and just really having a great time and celebrating each other. And there is no clock to nothing.
Wow.
And it hit me as just like, man, we've been missing it, and I want to do something different. And so at the start of it, I said, all right, and I love to eat pizza,
Right.
and so you see so many beautiful pizza ovens in Italy, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna see if I can get one of them. So I just started doing some research. I'm in Vacaville, which is in Northern California. Napa is about 20 minutes from me, and I
Right.
happen to have a company, Forno Piombo, that makes these beautiful pizza ovens. And
Hmm.
so I started talking to them, and one thing led to another. And the next thing I know, I got one on the back of my truck. We've made probably over 10,000 pizzas easy,
Right.
gone to several states,
Right.
and just are looking to continue to do more to use pizza to bring people together and to help people rise.
Right. And one of the things that I did, like I said, I watched a lot of your videos before we got on here just to kind of prepare for this, is you actually let the people, they're total strangers. You let the people pick what they want in their toppings, and then they go and meet this one and their toppings and stuff like that. You can kind of describe it a little better if you want, if you'd like.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
So
right.
diversity is a key ingredient to
Mhm.
life, and I wanted to have our guests, our companions that are part of whatever that we're doing, to learn how to take a step back and appreciate that. And so many times, it's not all the time, because depending on the flow and everything, but many times, yeah, you and I might be partnered up,
Mhm.
and we're sitting there, usually 2 people, because the table is not that big, are making their pizza together. And we're talking about, hey, what are those ingredients that are essential in your life that are reflected in your pizza?
Wow. Oh,
And
man,
so
yeah,
then
you get
we'll
deep there. That's
yeah,
good.
so we'll have those conversations while we're having fun, tossing up the pie, landing on
Uh-huh.
our head, and all kind of good stuff. And then we'll go break bread together. And
Yes.
then when we break bread, I'm going to give you a piece of mine. You're going to give me a piece of yours. And we're going to say, well, what are those ingredients again? And let's
Mhm.
talk about that. And I think if we can just allow people who perhaps on the outside might look different,
Yes.
realize, you know what, on the inside, we're all kind of the same, and we have a lot of the same desires. And if we can just take time to listen to each other, to truly listen, and
Hmm.
just share that space together as brother and sister, man, life is good, and we can learn so much and appreciate so much of each other.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, so that's kind of what it's about.
Yeah, you had me thinking about years ago. My cousin, I live out here in South Florida, and the only family I actually have is a cousin in Miami. And even when he would visit me, I grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland. Even when he would visit, they would always get pineapples on their pizza. And I'm like, dude, no, I cannot, I cannot get with that. I'm not trying it. You would see me picking the pineapples off the pizza. I'm like, I'm not, that doesn't even sound right. I took a bite. Let me tell you, Jeff, I took a bite one of the couple of years ago. I'm like, whoa. Now I see why you guys can't live without it. So, I love the concept, and I love the fact that you bring it together with these ingredients. And that now I want to kind of transition here and talk about how you were able to turn that into a series of children's books and, make it so, because I teach at a school that's K-5. And one of the things that we do pride ourselves on is making sure we're monitoring literacy rates. We're using creative ways to engage students in learning and reading and things like that. And everything you were talking about, it'd be like, ideal for how to teach kids when it comes to something they like doing, which is pizza. Every Friday, they're all excited about pizza, and merging it with something that they should like doing, which is reading, which too often does it get looked at as punishment. So, talk a little bit about your books and, how those came about.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody has a story,
Yeah.
or multiple stories. And I guess I just got to the point where I wanted to tell mine. And
Mhm.
let me take one step back. So I'm all in on my nonprofit now, and our nonprofit is run by 100% volunteers. So we charge money for what we do, but nobody takes a penny. So
Right.
I don't take any money from any of the work, the books, podcasts, nothing. It all goes to support the nonprofit.
Mhm.
And I'm in that space, being all in because I have a few health issues. And one of them is I have a large aortic root aneurysm coming right off my aorta and my heart. And so it limits how much heavy things I can lift, and
Right.
a bunch of other stuff that I won't get into. But that
Mhm.
I kind of felt like I have a ticking time bomb inside me,
Right.
and I've never been afraid to die, and I always wanted to get my money's worth. But I was like, I have these stories that I just want to get out,
Mhm.
and it's needed. And so I'm in the process of writing the Pizza Day series. And so I have 2 books that are out. I have 3 more that are coming, and then I have 4 chapters done of the adult version
Mhm.
book. And so these books, again, really are intended for families to sit at the table and just read them and come together. And so the first
Right.
one is titled We Rise Together.
Right.
And it's really about what does it take to do that. And when I make pizza, I make sourdough pizza. And I don't know if the listeners are too familiar with sourdough, but in order to keep that alive, you have to feed it. And so in the book, a big concept in it is feed the starter. And I equate that to what are you doing on the daily to nurture your heart and soul, your starter.
Mhm.
And so, what's really cool, and a lot of schools use our books, I started this Feed the Starter challenge. And so, say, I don't know, you said you're at K-5 school. So, even the kindergartners, hey, maybe they want to get better at reading. And so the challenge might be, well, I'm going to read 4 extra pages a day
Mhm.
for the month, say, of June. There, everybody's working. We got charts and all that stuff going on. And then at the end of the month, whoever conquered the challenge, we're going
Mhm.
to come back and party and celebrate with them and roll the pizza truck out, high five, make some pizzas, and allow the kids to realize, hey, we went through this process of learning how to work hard, learning how to work together as a team, learning how to stay committed. And then at the end of that, we come out and celebrate. And one of the things I love about it, just like you were talking about, we're addicted and have this instant gratification. A
Right.
big part of me wanting to initiate the Feed the Starter challenge was that process. And so after 5 days, the students earn the wood because it's wood fired pizza. So
Mhm.
after 10 days, they earn the dough. After 20 days, they earn the sauce, and at the end of it, hey, they earned everything that they need to
Mhm.
make a tasty pizza. And then, like I said, we go out and celebrate, and they realize that, yeah, hey, good things will happen through a process.
Right. So, what are some of the ways that schools have already incorporated what you're doing? Do you go directly to a teacher? Does the principal roll it out and they track these 5 days? What was a situation that actually worked?
Yeah, so that's a good question.
Mhm.
So a couple different ones. Usually, I'm the principal is like my or vice principal is my point of contact.
Right.
I do a lot of professional staff development because my last job was a nursing professor. So I've been in the education space
Mhm.
for many years, and so we'll do a professional development, like a full day of training around leadership development, around team building, around creating space for all your students to be seen, heard, and loved
Yeah.
with these concepts. And then at some point, the teachers, because usually the start of the year is a little bit busy, they'll roll out the Feed the Starter Challenge. And I will have come back and done a couple of assemblies, depending
Right.
on the size of the school, to let the kids know, hey, here's what's going on. That's really fun because during the assemblies, I'll bring some pizza doughs and I'll
Right.
line up the teachers in like the auditorium wherever at, and they're tossing up the doughs
Yeah.
in the air, and the kids are just going nuts.
Yeah. I
And
could
then
I could see. Well, I'm thinking of our kids. I know they would be going
oh
absolutely
yeah,
nuts.
they're cheering so loud. It's so much fun, and the teachers. Some of them have never tossed a dough. A lot of people, believe it or not, and so the things are just flying all over the place. But
Right.
that's fun. And then the teachers, I have like a demo of what a chart could look like, but they make it work for them, and then the kids take ownership. So a lot of them start the day with, all right, I got a class of 30. And Jeff, it's your turn to let your classmates know what your challenge is.
Mhm.
And then everybody has their name or initials on the list, and day one all the way through to day 30, boom,
Right.
I'm going to put a check mark to me conquering that challenge for today.
Yeah.
And again, that's huge for just seeing the process. On the flip side, and I'll be done here real quick, is the second year I was at the same school. We said, let's make it look different. And so the second year we decided to kind of beautify the school. And so the kindergartners say, for example, we're responsible for picking up all the balls that are left out.
Mhm.
The sixth graders are responsible for mentoring the first graders with some subject matter. And so everybody, each class took ownership of their campus, their community, and
Right.
said, hey, here's what we're doing to make this better, which I loved that idea.
Yeah.
And any chance we get a chance to serve, is a chance for us to learn. And Gandhi has a quote that I love: the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. And
Mhm.
so that's always like big for me in groups that I work with.
Yes, and it is important that you stay flexible with that because you just explain kind of a wide range of audiences that can work with you, whether it's the professional development workshops with the schools, or it's the actual students, and then as a college, or it's the actual K through 5 students that can actually look at their campus, look at their community, and start to actually take pride in it, which is something that is very important. I remember actually when I was in college, our coach, we were going through a losing streak, and he goes, "Guys, look, you guys want the secret to winning?" And we're all waiting. We're all like, "Yeah, what do we got to do? Clean up the locker room." And we're like, clean up the locker room. He goes, "Discipline, guys, get it." We're in college at that point. It's like, I see what you're saying. Yeah, discipline, clean up the locker room. We take pride in when we look on the field. That's that and the third. And all of that stuff really definitely makes sense. And I'm glad that you, like I said, stay very flexible with how you can work with people. And, with that, I do want to make sure we get it in. Like, who would be, if I'm listening to you now, if someone's listening out there, what would be the best way to get in touch with you if they feel like they'd make a good fit when it comes to what you're doing? What's the avenue that you sort of take people on?
Yeah, I mean, they can email is a good one for me, and it's just jeff at C4leaders, leaders.org. We have the book has its own website, pizzadays.org, and it's
Mhm.
DAYS. And then our nonprofit website is just C4leaders.org.
Well, before I even close you out though, because we got to make sure it gets mentioned. There's actual a framework for what C4 means. I believe it was communicate, and there was another couple C's. So you can
Yeah.
go ahead and put all that stuff out there now.
Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, C4 again. That's kind of like my moral compass, the values that I live my life by each and every day. And so communication is the first C, and that's I define it as listening with an empathetic ear with the intent of serving others. Chemistry, I define as developing trust in yourself to bring and receive value from the connections in your life. That's all what we're seeking. Is just those relationships. And then consistency. I'm not a big swear, but I do hear a little bit BTA. I think if you want to be good at anything, you got to be willing to bust that ass. And so you have to put in consistent work. And then on the flip side of that, and more so, to consistently challenge your thoughts and perspectives to the point of vulnerability. And I think when we can get into that space, and it's harder and harder getting into that space now because our amygdala is going nuts now all the time. But when you can get in there and say, hey, I'm not perfect, I'm going to make mistakes, then you just put yourself out there. You say, you know what? That's when I truly empower myself and others because I'm not playing scared.
Yeah.
And then that leads to the last C, which is creativity, which is overcoming fear to be willing to share your God-given gift.
Yes.
And when all those come together, that's the C4 baby right there. Boom.
Oh man, yeah, I remember that. That's a powerful, very, very powerful set of frameworks. And as listeners, if you need to go back, rewind it, do what you have to do, make sure you jot that down because that is very, very powerful. What would you say is like what's next? What are your plans in the future when it comes to your company and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. And we're in an interesting space because nobody really knows. I don't really do much social media. Not huge onto getting onto podcasts, but I said, all right, I got to get on a few at least.
Right.
And we were doing this really cool thing that we haven't even talked about. I'm actually doing one on this Saturday in San Mateo, California, but it's called Pizza with Purpose. And so that's another little kind of, I wouldn't say a program, but I guess I'd call it a program. And it's where we pick one person, and we really want to get their family and friends together. And there's no charge for this. We charge businesses, but this one is free for the person and their family and friends. And we do some activities that bring kind of life together. And a lot of times, life happens and we don't have the conversations that we need to have while our loved one is still alive. And that's back to my nursing. I've been at the bedside so many times where the patient in the bed is no longer able to receive the message that their family and friends are trying to share with them. And so I says, you know what? I want to do something about that. And I want people to get the messages while they're still alive, and then be able to continue to live a great life. And so Saturday we'll be out San Mateo, like I was saying, doing some activities, breaking some bread together, and allowing people to come together. So yeah, that's kind of what's next. And then just out at libraries, reading books, doing some stuff to build community, working with different groups, and then gonna start writing third book here pretty quick. And life is good.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to keeping up with your journey. So the final thing that I do, Jeff, with all the guests is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. You are fresh out of college. You realize you're not going to be playing in the NBA. You got to figure out what it is you're going to be doing. You're nursing. You're this. There's all sorts of. I know what that world is like. Just pretend that young Jeff has come into the Zoom room. Give him some words of encouragement, and we'll officially close.
And I would say, don't be afraid to chase your dreams and take action on the daily to making your dreams a reality. And then I dropped a mic on them.
John, well, we're going to drop the mic with that. All right. Oh, man, this has been amazing, though, by the way. I love what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. Looking forward. Hopefully, let me know if you guys out here in South Florida, if I can do anything. You just, you send a message and we'll figure something out for sure, man.
Hey, I appreciate it. And same to you. You come out to California, you got a place to stay, and definitely we'll break some bread together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.